Sadaशिवसमारम्भाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्
Om Sahana
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
वीर्यं
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
Om Shanti Shanti.
Okay, so during the last couple of classes we had talked about Anubandha Chatushtayam. We had started that subject, and the first one, that is Adhikari, is over. So the next one is Vishaya, the subject, and therefore Sadananda talks about that. So we will look at verse number 27, and we will just read that. Vishayaha Jiva Brahmaikyam Shuddha Chaitanyam
Jiva Brahmaikyam Shuddha Chaitanyam
Prameyam Tatra Eva Vedantanam Tatparyat. So the second Anubandha Chatushtayam, which is Vishaya, that is being talked about. What is the Vishaya? What is the subject? He says Jiva Brahma Aikyam. It is the identity of the Jivatma with Brahman or Paramatma. So this is the Aikyam, indicating that there is no merger, there is no union, there is no travel. That's why he says Aikyam. Identity is already there. It is an already existing identity. There are two words. Jiva is one word, Brahman is one word, Jivatma is one word, Paramatma is one word, but they all point to the same entity, the same consciousness principle, which is what? Shuddha Chaitanyam, pure consciousness alone. And if you remember the Vachyartham and the Lakshyartham of Tvampada is also pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanyam. The Vachyartham of the Lakshyartham of Tatpada is also Shuddha Chaitanyam, that consciousness. Only the Vachyartham are different. The Vachyartham of Tvampada is Jivatma. The Vachyartham of Tatpada is the Paramatma. But when you switch the meaning to Lakshyartham, the implied meaning, both are the same. That is Shuddha Chaitanyam, pure consciousness alone, which is what? Nirgunaha, free from the Vachyartham, which is the attributes, the inferior attributes of the Jiva body, and also free from the superior attributes of the Ishvara body. And so he says Prameyam. That Prameyam, that Brahman, is what is revealed by the Pramana. And Tatra Eva, that Brahman alone, Vedantanam Tatparyat, is the very essence of the Vedanta. There are many topics covered in Vedanta. You know, as you have seen in Bhagavad Gita, there are many topics. In Upanishads, there are many topics. But you have to put aside all the subsidiary topics and look at the very essence, the main teaching, which is called Tatparyam. That is what? It's basically the revelation of Brahman alone. It's like drinking coffee in a disposable mug, a disposable cup. Once the coffee has been consumed, what do you do with the cup? You throw it in the trash. The value is not for the content, which is the cup. The value is for the contained. The value is for the content, not for the cup. So there is a container and there is a content. We have no value for the container, which is the cup. Our value is only for the content, which is coffee, which we have consumed. And having consumed the coffee, we throw away the cup. Similarly, having understood the meaning of Brahman, we do not have any value for Anatma. So this cup coffee example has to be extended to Atma, Anatma. Once Atma is understood, then Anatma becomes non-relevant. Now we will go to, so that the topic of subject is covered. What is the subject? It is the Jiva Brahma Aikyam, the oneness between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Now we go to the next, the third Anubandha Chatushtayam, with the Sambandha. So we look at topic number 28. We will read Sambandastu
Sambandastu
Tadaikya Prameyasya
Tadaikya
Tat Pradipadaka
Tat
Pratipadaka
Upanishad Pramanasya
Upanishad
Pramanasya
Cha Bodhya Bodhaka Bhava.
Bodhaka Bhavaha.
Bhavaha.
Okay. So the next is Sambandha. Sambandha means connection. Connection between what and what? It can be any two things. It can be between the sadhaka, that is the seeker, and moksha, which is what is sought. So prapya, prapaka, sambandha, it can be. But here, Sadananda is taking the book and subject matter as the two entities for which he is talking about the sambandha. The book is the pramanam and the subject is the prameyam. So what is the relationship between the pramanam and the prameyam, between the book and the subject matter? So he says tad aikya prameyasya. The subject matter prameyasya is in the form of tat aikyam, form of the aikyam, the oneness of the paramatma with the jivatma. And tat pradipadakaha, what is revealing that aikyam? Tat pradipadaka. Pradipadaka is the revealer. So tat pradipadaka, revealer of that aikyam. What is it? Upanishad pramanasya. It is the Upanishad which is revealing the aikyam. The Upanishad acting as a pramanam, it reveals the prameyam, and therefore it shows us that there is no difference between Brahman and Jivatma. And he uses another word for it, Bodhya Bodhakaha. Bodhya Bodhaka. Bodhaka is the revealer, Bodhya is the revealed, and therefore Bodhya Bodhaka is the sambandha, the connection itself. That's not a term used. And in our earlier classes, we have talked about another usage of a term for the same idea, which is the Pratipadaka Pratipadya Sambandha. If you remember, Pratipadaka is the revealer, Pratipadya is the revealed. In this case, the Bodhaka or the Pratipadaka is the Pramanam, the Upanishad, and the Bodhyam or the Pratipadya, that is Brahman, the Atma. Okay. So with that one verse, he disposes of what? Sambandha. What is the next one? Prayojanam. We will read topic number 29. Prayojanam tu Tadaikya Prameya Gata Ajnana Nivrittihi Swasarupa Anandaha Avaptischa Tarati Shokam Atmavit Ityadi Shrutehe Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati Ityadi Sutescha.
Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati Ityadi Shrutescha.
So he is talking about the prayojanam, the benefit. And he gives two quotations also to back up his opinion. Two quotations from Shruti itself. Tarati Shokam Atmavit. As you can read, it is written in the Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 7.1.3. That is where you find this particular statement, particular mantra, Tarati Shokam Atmavit. And also for those who have done Mundaka, is already there. Mundaka 3.2.9, Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. What do they mean? Let us see. So the first prayojanam he says is Tad Aikya Prameya Gata Ajnana Nivrittihi. Tad Aikya Prameya Gata Ajnana Nivrittihi. So Gata means associated with. Ajnanam Nivritti. Freedom, Ajnana Nivritti is freedom from Ajnanam, which is Gata, which is associated with what? Tad Aikya. With that knowledge of me and Brahman. Jivatma and Brahman and Jivatma and Paramatma, there is a Aikyam, there is a oneness. But there is a Ajnanam, there is a ignorance associated with that, and Nivritti, freedom from that ignorance. So he is very specific here. He is not talking about any Ajnana. That is why he says Prameya Gata Ajnana. You have to carefully read that. Nivritti from Prameya Gata Ajnanam. Nivritti from Ajnanam associated with Tadaikyam, which is the Prameyam, which we saw earlier, right? The Prameyam was Tadaikyam. That oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma, all of us have ignorance of that. That is what he means by Gata. Ignorance of the Aikyam of Jivatma with Paramatma. Ajnana Nivritti. That freedom from that Ajnanam, from that ignorance is called Prayojana. Which means what? You will no longer have ignorance about the fact that you and Paramatma are the same. That you and Brahman are the same. So three things. When you say Ajnanam, it's not purely Ajnanam. Ajnanam itself, can it create a problem? Just pure ignorance, can it create a problem?
No.
And what then will create the problem? If pure ignorance cannot create the problem, and we often say ignorance is bliss, right? So there is no problem in ignorance. What creates the problem?
Misconstruing the truth.
Wrong understand.
Yes, Arunaji, you were saying?
The superimposed errors and
Exactly.
associated errors.
Exactly. So remember, when we talk about ignorance, as Vedantics, we have to be very specific. What is the problem? Ignorance has no problem. But there is a superimposition, adhyasa born out of the ignorance. That creates a problem. So ignorance of your nature as Atma, it doesn't create a problem for you. But on that ignorance, what happens? First, the ignorance is there. You do not know you are Atma. And therefore, what happens? You superimpose Jivatma on that Atma. That is the superimposition, is the adhyasa. So adhyasa born from ajnana, adhyasa born from ignorance is the problem. And all the problems are created by adhyasa. All are adhyasa products only. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha. All these are products of adhyasa, of the superimposition. Therefore, whenever you say that ignorance goes away, automatically you must count on your fingers. Ajnanam goes away. Adhyasa born out of Ajnanam. Ajnana Janya Adhyasa goes away. And all the products created by Adhyasa, they also go away. Three things go away in one shot by getting freedom from Ajnanam. So Ajnana Nivritti ensures that Ajnana Janya Adhyasa also goes away, and all the problems created by that Adhyasa also goes away. So that is what he's saying. That is the first prayojanam. Then he gives another prayojanam. The first prayojanam is that much. Then there is Swaswarupa Anandaha Avaptischa. So attaining Avaptischa, attaining the Ananda, which is Swaswarupa, your own nature. Swaswarupa Anandaha. That word has to be broken carefully. Anandaha, which is Swaswarupa, which is your own nature, that is attained. So there are two things. One is freedom from Ajnanam. And because of that, what happens is you know the true nature of yourself as Atma, and Atma, the moment you know the true nature of Atma as yourself, you attain that nature also. So here, that is a very important thing here. Knowing is attaining. That is the main thrust in this teaching is that once you know, once the knowledge is there is nothing more to be done. Knowledge itself is becoming. And that is why he gives Shruti support. He gives support of the Veda. So he says, Tarati Shokam Atmavit. Atmavita means the one who has known the Atma. Tarati Shokam. He has crossed all sorrow. Tarati means crossed. Shokam is sorrow. And this is the pramanam for what? Dukkha nivrittihi. The first benefit which is talked about, dukkha nivrittihi. Ajnanam nivrittihi means what? All the dukkhams, all the problems born of ajnanam are also destroyed. Freedom from ajnanam includes, as we said, freedom from ajnana adhyasa, and freedom from ajnana adhyasa includes freedom from all the dukkhams, all the sorrows created by that adhyasa. Therefore, he gives two Shruti supports over here because he has given two prayojanams. The first prayojanam he said was ajnana nivrittihi, which is also can be taken as dukkha nivrittihi. So for that he says tarati shokam atmavit. Chandogya Upanishad. The one who knows the Atma, he crosses sorrow. Shruti has said. So that is the support. And the other one is Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. The one who knows Brahman, Brahmavit Brahma Eva Bhavati, becomes Brahman only. This is the second one, where we said that second prayojanam was what? We said that he attains the Ananda. And how can you attain Brahmananda? Only when you are established yourself as Brahman. And therefore, Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. The one who knows Brahman, he is Brahman himself. He has become Brahman. Becoming not in the sense of any transformation, becoming in the sense of establishing, knowing that I am Brahman. Because of the knowledge alone, Atmananda or Brahmananda is also there. So with this, the 4 Anubandha Chatushtayam is over. Now, once Anubandha Chatushtayam is over, what is the next step? Anubandha Chatushtayam means what? You have understood that these are the what you call the features associated with learning. And therefore, after that, what must you do? You must go to the Guru. So the next step is Guru Upasadanam. Formally approaching the Guru and asking to be taught. So that is the next topic. Remember here that Anubandha Chatushtayam means that whoever is the sadhaka who has understood this, you have to supply here, has also followed Sadhana Chatushtayam, has got Chitta Shuddhi, and now he is ready for Jnana. So he approaches the Guru. This is called Guru Upasadanam. That he's talking about in the next topic, which we will read. I am Adhikari.
I am Adhikari.
Janana Maranadi.
Janana Maranadi.
Samsara Nala Santapto.
Samsara Santo.
Dipta Shira.
Shira.
Jalarashimiva.
Jalarashiva.
Upahara Panihi.
Upahara-pani.
Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam Gurum Upasratya.
Shrutyam
Brahmanishtam Gurum Upasratya.
Upasratya.
Tam Anusarati.
Sarati.
Tad Vijnanartham sa Gurum Eva Bigachet.
Vijnanartham sa gurumeva bhakti.
Samit Panihi.
Samitpanihi.
Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam.
Shrotyam brahmanishtam.
Ityadi Shrutehe.
Adishrutehe.
So those who have done Mundaka Upanishad will recognize that this is from Mundaka. This is from the first chapter, 1.2.12, second section, the 12th mantra. Okay. So I am Adhikari. This Adhikari. Which Adhikari? The one who has understood Anubandha Chatushtayam and who has got Chitta Shuddhi by practice of Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga and all that for sufficient length of time. Even after all that, What is the description of that adhikari? He says, samsara anala santaptaha. Samsara analam. The fire of samsara. Analam is fire. Samsara analam is fire of samsara. Santaptaha. This adhikari, santaptaha, is being completely roasted. Taptaha is roasted. Santaptaha, completely roasted. In what? Samsara analam. In the fire of samsara. And what is the nature of this fire? He gives janana maranadi. So jananam means the birth, maranam is death, adi etc. stands for old age, disease, all these things. So this adhikari is being roasted in the fire of samsara. And of course, we should remember that all types of troubles. So fire represents troubles. All types of troubles are of three types. What are they?
Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika.
Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika. I am not explaining because I am assuming that all of you all are advanced students who are aware of this. Okay. So there are three types of analam, three types of fires: Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, Tapaha. And he gives a description. What is the description of this person? Deepta Shiraha. So just like a person whose hair is on fire. Deepta Shiraha means his hair is burning. And when your hair is burning, what will you look for? Jalarashim eva. So Deepta Shiraha Jalarashim eva means a person whose hair is burning. With what frenzy will he be looking for a pool of water? Jalarashi means body of water. So Jalarashim can be taken as a pool or a lake or the ocean, wherever there is water, or even a big bucket. Okay. So Jalarashim eva, this person whose hair is burning, he is seized with urgency and is looking for a pool of water. In the same way, this particular adhikari, who is samsara anala santaptaha, who is being roasted on the fire of samsara, what will he do? He will look for a shrotriya brahmanishtam. So shrotriya brahmanishtam, shrotriya means, this is a description of a guru which is given in the scriptures. Shrotriyam means the person who has listened. Shrotra is ear. Shrotriyam means person who has listened. So we have to take that as a person who has formally been trained through Shravanam and Mananam and Nididhyasam. Why is this very important? Because you find lots of gurus in this world, at least in our world today, you find lots of gurus who discount Shravanam at all. They say that we have got everything in meditation. I have got knowledge in meditation. Many of our gurus say that. So that we don't say no, right? Because we say, okay, you might have got knowledge, you might be a jnani. But why is there an insistence on Shrotriyam? Because a Shrotriya person has listened to the guru and the guru has taught him in a particular way. There is a way of teaching Shastra. And that we will see in the next couple of topics later. There is a way of teaching Shastram. And that Shastram has, unless you have learned from the guru in that particular way, how will you teach it to your Shishya? And that is the meaning of Shrotriyam. The person must have studied under a live guru, right? You can't say that I am Ramana Maharishi's Shishya and that he taught me, because he's not there to teach you. So you have to have studied under a live guru. There is no teaching from a person who is dead. So Shrotriyam means a live person, a teacher who has learnt from his teacher, and therefore he is aware of the way in which the knowledge is to be transferred. So that is Shrotriyam. And Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam means the person is established in Brahman. Means he knows that I am Brahman. Because the whole teaching is about telling you that he is Brahman. And if the guru himself is not convinced that he is Brahman, how can he convince me that I am Brahman? And therefore both conditions must be there. Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam should be there. Remember, just a Brahmanishtam is not sufficient to teach you, because he may be a Brahmanishta, which means he could have got knowledge in the previous life and that knowledge flowered during this life. He didn't formally undergo any teaching, any training, right? And therefore, while he is jnani, He lacks the knowledge of how to convey it. That is why Shrotriyam. Those 2 points are very important. That Guru must be Shrotriyam and he must be Brahmanishtam. He must know that he is Brahman. And not only that, he must have attained that knowledge through formal study at the hands of another teacher. So this Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, what does this sadhaka do? Gurum Upasritya. He comes to the Guru, he approaches the Guru. How? Upahara Pani. So Pani is what?
Hand.
Pani. Upahara is what?
Gift.
Gift. So basically Upahara Pani is Guru Dakshina. Okay. And here of course he says Upahara Pani, but Mandukya says Samit Pani. Samit Pani. Samit is a dried twig. Dried leaf of twig. Dried twigs are there because the twigs are given as a formal offering to the Guru, saying that I want to learn from you. You don't have to bring a ton of money or some gold and silver and all when you approach a teacher. It is simple offering saying that I am your student and I will obey what you say, and therefore I give you this particular twigs. Twigs can be used in to light the fires. Okay, that is why twigs. So he will approach. So he says, Upahara Panihi Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam Gurum Upasritya. He approaches the Guru with some Guru Dakshina in his hands and Tam Anusarati. He will obey the instructions of his Guru. So this is what Sadananda says. This is what that person will do. And Sadananda doesn't want to say that I say this. And therefore he gives the pramanam. He says, I am not the one saying it. The Shruti also says, the Veda also says, Upanishad also says. And so he says, Tad Vijnanartham sa Gurum eva bigachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So Tad Vijnanartham means for the purpose of studying the Atma Vidya, Tad Vijnanartham, for the purpose of understanding or being taught the Atma Vidya, sa Gurum eva bigachet. He approaches the Guru with what? Samit Pani, the Samit twig in his hand. What is that Guru? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Same way he says that Guru must also be Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. So he is saying the words that I am using are not my own. They are there in the Veda. Shruti herself says that this is the way to approach a Guru. And therefore I am giving you that information. Okay. After approaching the Guru, then what? So then we will read topic number 31.
Acharya,
Yes, please.
was the verse saying the Adhikari approaches the Guru with this urgency or is searching for a Guru with this urgency?
No. He's found a Guru, right? So if you want to look at the urgency, well, if you're literally drawing a parallel when your head is on fire, I mean, assuming you know where a lake is, you'll go running to the lake, right? If you're going to look for a lake when your head is on fire, you don't want to know what is happening to your head, right? So we assume that there is a Guru whom he knows about, or you can also say that he is desperately searching for a Guru. Either way. Okay.
Acharya,
Yes, Jun.
what was the term in Sanskrit for approaching the Guru? Guru something.
See, there are two. One is used by Sadananda. That you can see here in the second line. Gurum Upasritya. Upasritya is approach. And if you look at the quotation from Mundaka Upanishad, he says Gurum eva abhigachet. Abhigachet means approach or go to a Guru.
Okay.
2 words.
Thank you, sir.
Hearing the same thing. One says go to, one says approach.
Okay.
Ravi.
Yeah.
So if I understood correctly, I'm not sure actually, that the Guru must be who had approached or who had formal teaching in this life. Did you say
Yes,
so?
in this life. Because if we had it in the previous life, then the knowledge of that teaching will not carry over. The knowledge will carry over. Atmajnanam may carry over, which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Atmajnanam will not get lost, but the manner of teaching, that may not be there.
Okay, thank you so much.
And the reason is that you as a seeker, you are not privy to his past life. Right? So you don't know whether he had a teacher or not in the past life.
Mhm.
And therefore, you don't want to take that on faith because it's a very important thing for you. You're going to spend 10 or 12 years under him.
Mhm.
So you must know whether he had a teacher or not. And that you can only know if he has had a teacher in this life.
Okay.
You don't want
Yes.
to take on past life. Okay, that I mean, no sensible person would spend 10 years of his life taking a chance that this fellow has got past life teaching and remembers. And therefore, you look for a teacher who has had a teacher in this life, which you know about.
So just wanted to. So in that case, Sri Ramakrishna can be considered.
No, we
I mean,
can't consider him Kshatriya. Neither Sri
okay.
Ramakrishna nor Ramana Maharishi
And
nor
Swami
your
Shivananda
Coimbatore based fellow, what is his name? All these people cannot be considered because they don't have formal teaching.
and
Even
Swami Shivananda.
Swami Shivananda had a teacher.
Okay.
Tapovan Maharaj.
He had a teacher. All these people have had teachers. Okay. So Swami Shivananda, Swami Vishnu Devananda, Swami Dayananda, all these people have had teachers. There's a parampara there, and therefore you approach them.
But Ramana Maharshi was already.
Ramana Maharishi may have been Brahmanishtha, but
Yeah.
he did not have a
Guru.
Shrotriyam thing, which is why if you look at Maharishi's that VedantaSaara which we did, Ramana Maharishi has not explained all that. Ramana Maharishi simply says, who are you? You understand. Ask yourself. And if you read the English disciples versions, there are some English disciples, I forget the name, Major Chadwick or something. They've written something about Ramana Maharishi. If you read that book, which tries to explain what Ramana Maharishi taught, and you listen to VedantaSaara lectures we have done, you will understand the difference. Those people, they look at the mystic part of it. They are unable to explain anything, everything in mysticism. That is why we say Shrotriyam is a must. Otherwise, you are a mystic. And mystic is something which, as a Vedantic student, you don't want to accept. So, topic number 31. Saguru Paramakripaya
Guru
Paramakripaya
Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena
Aropa Nyayena
Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena
Adhyaropa Apada Nyayena
Enam Upadishati
Upadishati.
Tasmai Savidwan Upasannaya
Tasmai
Samyak Prashanta Chittaya
Prashanta Chittaya
Shaman Vitaya
Anvitaya
Yenaksharam Purusham Veda Satyam
Purusham Veda Satyam
Provachatam Tattvato Brahma Vidyam
Vachatam Tattva Brahma
Ityadi Shrutehe.
Ityadi Shrutehe.
So again, another quotation from Mundaka. So those who have, as I said in the very beginning, this is a bit of an advanced text because it keeps on giving you the source from which all the statements are being made. And therefore, if you are familiar with this source, you will enjoy the text much more. So those who have done the Mundaka Upanishad, who have come to Upanishad class, they would be finding it easy to correlate. That is the only thing. Not that it is not useful otherwise. Otherwise, you have to take what I say at face value because you have not been exposed to the Upanishad. Have you been exposed to the Upanishad? Immediately you will be able to connect. That is the only difference. So, Saha Guruhu, that Guru, who is Parama Kripaya, who is a very compassionate person. What does he do? Nyayena. He uses a particular method. Nyaya. What is the method? Adhyaropa Apavada. Superimposition and negation. Adhyaropa means superimposition. Apavada means negation of what has been superimposed. Using that method of Adhyaropa Apavada, Enam Upadishati. He teaches the student. And how does he teach? systematic, long-term teaching of the Vedantic Shastra. And very clearly it says, Adhyaropa Apavada Nyayena. This is the traditional method of teaching. Okay. And how do we know? Because the author is saying this. How do we know that he will do this? So he gives Shruti Pramanam. He says, Tasmai, that Guru, Vidwan Upasannaya, to whom the Vidwan. Vidwan here is student. In this case, Vidwan is the student. The Chitta Shuddhi, person who was Chitta Shuddhi, Tasmai sa Vidwan Upasannaya, Samyak Prashanta Chittaya Shaman Vitaya. This indicates the qualifications of a person who has got Chitta Shuddhi. Samyak, complete, Prashanta Chittaya, peaceful mind, Shaman Vitaya, endowed with Shama. What does he do? Yena Aksharam Purusham Veda. He teaches him about the Aksharam Purusham, about Brahman. Satyam Provacha Tam Tattvato Brahma Vidya. And it teaches him all about Brahman. Brahma Vidya is taught to him. Who says that? Ityadi Shrutehe. So here you can see the Adhyaropa Apavada is the crucial way of, is the traditional way of teaching. And this is what I meant when I said only the Shrotriyam, only the person who has listened to a guru, he will know how to teach, because while teaching itself, the guru follows this pattern. There is a superimposition and there is a negation. Because of that only, he is able to understand. Okay. With this, actually chapter 1 is over. Okay. But I think I will give you a little bit more background on Adhyaropa Apavada, because this is the most important idea which we must all know. Now remember, this idea has not been covered in Tattva Bodha. Okay. Those of you who have done chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, they would be aware. Chapter 13 gives 2-3 slokas which have this particular Adhyaropa and Apavada system. What is that system? Now, when we started teaching Vedanta, or Bhagavad Gita for that matter, what is the first thing we introduced?
Anatma.
Anatma, right? So, Anatma is the Drishya Prapancha, the visible universe. So, Adhyaropa is the, I'll put in brackets, is the temporary acceptance of Drishya Prapancha. Temporary acceptance of the fact that there is a Mithya universe, and this is for the methodology of teaching, because you can't talk about Brahman itself. Brahman has no gunas to talk about. It has no attributes at all. So how can you talk about something which has no attributes? And therefore you talk about the universe, which is full of attributes. The Jagat, the Srishti, which is full of attributes, you talk about them. So Adhyaropa is temporary acceptance. Why temporary? Because later on you will be negating it, right? So talking about Srishti means talking about the origination, talking about the creation, talking about the maintenance, talking about the dissolution. So Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. All the 3 topics are basically Adhyaropa of Srishti. What is Apavada? Apavada is the negation. How do you negate? Whenever I say Srishti is negated, what do I mean? I mean that the status of Srishti as Satyam is negated, which means you have to establish that Srishti is Mithya, right? For this, you can look at the example of the gold and the gold bangle. The gold bangle, the word bangle you introduce first, and then you say this is a gold bangle. So that is superimposition, adhyasa. Then you explain that there is really no such thing as a bangle. It is only a form, and it's only a particular form which has been given a particular name. And that form itself cannot exist without the gold. In the case of the bangle, it is simple to understand. Without the gold, the form will not exist. Without the form, the name will not exist. So whenever you say bangle, you are using a word bangle, but actually you mean gold only. And therefore, understanding that bangle as nothing other than gold is called the negation of the bangle. Nothing changes. The form of the bangle remains. Your understanding that bangle is the object different from the gold, that changes. That is called the negation. That is called apavada. So adhyaropa is first introducing the bangle. And then later on saying that no, there really is no bangle at all. That is the apavada. What is the purpose of this adhyaropa and apavada? When you use the word adhyaropa, when you use the technique of adhyaropa, it means that Shruti, Veda is saying that the world is not under the category of non-existent object. This understanding has to be very carefully remembered. When you are using adhyaropa, when you are using superimposition, Veda is telling us, Upanishad is telling us that Jagat cannot be classified as non-existent. Okay, and if you remember the example of the rabbit's horn. Rabbit's horn means non-existent, and we used a Sanskrit word for it, tuchcha rupa asat, that which is not really there at all. So a rabbit's horn is something which doesn't exist at all. That is called tuchcha rupa asat. And this is, therefore, you are saying that Jagat is asat vilakshanam. Jagat is not non-existent. By introducing adhyasa, superimposition, you are saying that Jagat is not non-existent. This you must understand. Now, by doing apavada, by negating that Jagat, you are indicating that Jagat is not satyam. Jagat is not existing. The first one was what? You are saying that Jagat is not non-existent. And by apavada, by this negation, you are saying that Jagat is not existent, which is Sat Vilakshanam. The first one is Asat Vilakshanam. Second one is Sat Vilakshanam. Therefore, by doing both, you are presenting the Jagat as Sat Asat Vilakshanam, as different from existing and different from non-existing. Do you understand? The purpose of Adhyaropa Apavada is this: to introduce Jagat, you introduce the Anatma as something which doesn't really exist, and also as something which is not non-existent. Does it make sense? The technical term is Sat Asat Vilakshanam. Vilakshanam means different, Sat means existent, Asat means non-existent, and therefore Sat Asat Vilakshanam means presented as something which is neither existent nor non-existent. In other words, what is the term we use?
Mithya.
Mithya. So the whole purpose of Adhyaropa Apavada is to arrive at the conclusion that Jagat is Mithya and not non-existent, not really existent also. Why is it? Why do we say not really existent? Because
Dependent exist.
Satyam is exist. What is the definition of Satyam?
Independent existence all the time.
No.
Trika-
Tattvabodha. Definition means Tattvabodha.
Trikale api tishtati iti sat.
Trikale api tishtati iti sat. That which exists in all the time frames, that is Sat. And that Jagat cannot be. Why can it not be?
Its existence is ratantra. It's dependent on.
No. Use that definition. Trikale api tishtati. Why cannot Jagat fit into that?
It can be destroyed. It goes through Laya.
It
Yes.
goes through, Laya is not the word, you're right, but it goes through Pralaya, not Laya.
Kalinga.
Vrish-
Laya is used for us at the Vyashti level, Pralayam is used at Samashti level. And since Jagat has destruction in the sense of Pralayam, remember, actually speaking, there is no destruction at all. If you remember Bhagavad Gita, what happens during Pralayam?
It becomes unmanifest.
It becomes unmanifest.
Avyakta.
Avyaktam it becomes. Remember that. Therefore, it is that avyakta status, conversion of vyakta status into avyakta status, that is what is being called destruction over here, pralayam. And therefore, since Jagat goes through that, it cannot be Satyam. It cannot be Asatyam also, because you are there, you are living in it. It cannot be non-existent because you are experiencing it all the time. All transactions take place only in existing Jagat. Therefore, it is not non-existent also. Therefore, it has a peculiar status, which is not existing and, not existing and not existing. And therefore, Sad Asad Vilakshanam, which we call Mithya, which is what? A dependent existence. So, if Jagat is Mithya, what gives the existence to Mithya? Because a Mithya Vastu cannot exist by itself. And therefore, there is something which is the Adhishthanam, the support. Obviously, another Anatma cannot lend existence to this Jagat. Why? Because any Anatma is Mithya only by the same argument. And therefore, the existence has to be lent to the Jagat by something other than Atma. What is there other than Atma? Other than the Atma is only, other than Anatma is only Brahman. Therefore, only Brahman is the Adhishthanam which lends existence to Jagat. So, this is the purpose of your Adhyaropa and Apavada, the technique. First, you use the Jagat, you analyze it very thoroughly, and then you say that this Jagat doesn't really exist because it is Mithya. And then you ask, if this Jagat is Mithya, remember it is not Tuchha Rupa Asat, it is not completely and fully non-existent. It is dependently existent. And therefore, there must be something which lends existence. That Brahman is the Adhisthana. Therefore, you negate what? You negate the Jagat, leaving what? Leaving the Adhisthana. Leaving Brahman, the Adhisthana. And what is the phalam of this jnanam? The phalam of this jnanam is that because this Jagat is Mithya and I am Satyam, I am of a higher level of reality. I am Paramarthika Satyam. This Jagat is Vyavaharika Satyam. That lower level of reality cannot touch me, the Satyam. I am free from samsara. I am beyond the Shadvikaras. I am beyond all sorrow. Now, the flow of this text is that the second chapter and the third chapter both deal with Adhyaropa. The second chapter deals with what we call Samanya Adhyaropa, which is general creation. And the third chapter deals with something which is called Vishesha Adhyaropa, specific creation. To give an example, the creation of the earth is what? Is Samanya Adhyaropa. It is Easwara Srishti, created by the Lord. But the creation of India and Pakistan, it is Vishesha Adhyaropa, Jiva Srishti. Right? That is the difference between Samanya and Vishesha Adhyaropa. Then the fourth chapter, so the third chapter deals with Vishesha Adhyaropa, second chapter deals with Samanya Adhyaropa. The fourth chapter deals with Apavada, where through Mahavakyam, both the Adhyaropas, Jiva Srishti and Easwara Srishti, are both negated, and only I, Brahman, remain. The fifth chapter discusses all the sadhanas required to understand the teaching. And the sixth chapter talks about Jnana Phalam, Jivan Mukti, and Videha Mukti. So, with this, we'll stop for today. Remember that the idea of negation of the what we call Jagat and what is remnant, what is left behind after the negation, that is Brahman. That idea is found in your Vibhuti, in the concept of Vibhuti. Right? What is Vibhuti?
So the burnt ashes?
The burnt
burnt
ash.
ash? Yeah.
And that burnt ash is considered sacred. Right? Why is it considered sacred? Because it is the same logic that when everything has been negated, everything has been burnt, what remains behind is Brahman. When the entire Anatma has been negated, what remains behind is Brahman. When your whatever is being offered to the fire has been burnt, what remains behind is the essence, the adhishthanam, the ash. And that is why ash is sacred. We consider ash as sacred based on this logic only. So with this, I'll stop. Any questions?
Acharya.
Yeah.
So Vibhuti also refers to like superpower, like in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Vibhuti Pada.
Yeah, so that's a different interpretation completely.
Okay.
Vibhuti
And,
in Bhagavad Gita also has some meanings of powers, but here Vibhuti is basically the ash. Literal translation is ash.
Okay. And I have a second question.
Yeah.
In the verse, there is Atyarupa Apavada Nyayena. What is the meaning of the last word?
Nyaya means the prakriya, the process, the methodology,
Okay.
the teaching
Thank
methodology.
you. Okay. Thank you so much.
Raviji?
Yeah.
Sir, is this technique somewhere close to Neti Neti?
You can say neti neti, but it's yeah, it can be, but then you don't deliberately superimpose. It's already there in your mind. That is body. So don't try to connect it. Adhyaropa is a teaching technique. Neti neti is also same thing, but it's not teaching technique anymore. That is meant for Panchakosha Viveka.
Okay. And Raviji, can you please repeat once again the Vibhuti as in the sense of Brahman?
Means?
The Vibhuti thing that you just mentioned about, that when the body is burned into ashes, what remains is Brahman.
No, not that way. See, when the body is burned, what remains is the ash, right? That is symbolically equivalent to the negation of anatma. When you negate the superimpositions, what remains behind is the adhishthanam. See, any superimposition, it cannot stand on its own. It has to have a particular substratum. That substratum is Brahman. And this, of course, we will see in the next topic, in topic number 32, which we will do next week.
Thank you so much, Raviji.
Okay. It's a bit heavy, I know, but it is no longer Tattva Boda. And as you go through this particular text, you will find that your understanding will be clearer and clearer almost day by day.
Yes.
So with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat.
Thank you,
Namah
Acharya.
Shivaya.
Acharya ji.